Ryan and I were looking for another song to work on together. He was sending me a bunch of ideas, just verses and choruses. And I felt like we had really established an acoustic pop, or I should say organic pop is really a better way to describe it, with this first song Made for Me that we worked on together. So, that's part of what I was listening for, but also there's just good songs and great songs, and you really have to just dig for them and sometimes write a bunch of things to just see what comes out. And so when I heard Feels Like, I was like, man, that's a hit song, fits the real direction we're going for, and it just was an obvious choice for me. On the heels of Made for Me, which was definitely more acoustic, Ryan's a really great acoustic guitar player. I mean, a great guitar player in general, but his acoustic part on that is the instrumental feature. And so it just seemed like acoustic drums and, a real bass player would make that all kind of work together. And then we just added a little bit of electric rhythm. So when I heard Feels Like, I was like, man, this is like pop radio hit, not going super slick or boy band or anything silly like that, but just trying to stay in the organic realm. I just thought like programming the beats and doing a little bit more kind of, in the box, if you will, would work with his acoustic guitar and then a bunch of electric guitars. That's kind of how I tied them together. Well, the process for recording Feels Like was just a lot of hours of formulating ideas. I mean, I knew that one was going to happen mostly in here with me and, the keyboards and the computer, because I really started with Ryan's work tape that he sent me, which was him on an acoustic guitar and singing. And I timed that out and I started building around it. So I pretty much started with the drums and the beats and found kind of a template for that, like where it would be big in the chorus and where it kind of break down in different sections. And then I pretty much just did a bass part, some keyboard parts, and then got with this guy Phil Hewley, who's a great funky kind of electric guitar player, and built out some stuff. I did some guitar parts, that little intro thing I'd come up with, and I'd say it's probably 80% of stuff I just did in here over a course of a couple weeks, and then Phil added some extra spice on it, and it's just one of those like, it's a little intimidating at first with a song like this because you're staring at a blank screen and you're playing one little part at a time. But there's a real reward in that too, because when it kind of all comes together and people hear it, they're like, "Oh my God, it's so great!" So it's fun. The reason I chose this direction, I'd like to say a big part of it was just instinct and gut feeling. Um, but if I were to really break it down, there are certain elements and certain ways or styles of music that feel human. Like, there's stuff that's like really synthetic and like EDM stuff, right? That just sounds very processed. And while this has some programmed trickery, if you will, some reverse effects and all kinds of fun stuff. There's like funky, soulful guitars that it's rooted in, pop music from really the 60s, right? And the 70s and 80s. And there's versions of this throughout. And again, Ryan's primary acoustic part was my inspiration for where I wanted to take this. I thought, okay, I'm never going to lose Ryan as a singer and as a guitar player and a songwriter. I just want to like build it out so that it's like, it's just a beautiful frame around what he's doing. Feels like just the song itself is a bit different than Made for Me, and Made for Me just made sense to be a bit more acoustic and organic. This is just such a pop hit. What I tried to do is really just marry some pop elements with like organic guitars, Ryan's acoustic, and some electrics. And even truly, if you really listen to it, even the beats, while they're programmed, they're very organic, natural drum samples. So to me, that was the perfect marriage of like pop radio and yet like the human touch. Ryan, of course, like I've mentioned, did a stellar primary acoustic part that was really the foundation for everything. And then I brought in Phil Hughley to play some electric parts. And then once Ryan and I were happy with it, it went to our favorite mix guy, Jeff Giuliano, who really, like, he listened to my rough mix, and when I go back and forth, it's like, oh yeah, his is far better because I just sort of do a rough, you know. But he kept the spirit of what we really tried to do through the whole thing without trying to reinvent the wheel, and it sounds like $1,000,000, and it just sounds like it's ready for radio. It's so great. So it really was a small team on this one, but the right people.
Feels like, oh, 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 oh,